Workshops in question do not appear to have any relationship with our approved suppliers in Argentina. We have received no contact from them regarding these claims, nor have we had any contact or complaint from the Argentinian authorities. Now, Jenny Holdcroft is the Director of Policy, Trade and Development at the Global Union Federation Industrial, and she joins us now live from Geneva. Jenny, thank you very much for being with us. Let me just get a reaction from you regarding Inditex's reaction to these allegations of sweatshops.
Well, I have to say Inditex's reaction is not entirely surprising. The problem with Inditex, which owns Zara and many of the other companies in the clothing industry, is that they simply don't have control over their supply chains anymore. It's entirely credible that they do not know whether or not the companies concerned are supplying Zara with clothes. The local activists on the ground may have found Zara labels, and that would link definitely the companies to Zara, but Zara has a relationship with its contractors who may then subcontract the work to numerous other contractors, and that is why I'm not entirely surprised to hear that Inditex doesn't know at this stage whether or not these companies are linked to it.
Well, let's broaden this discussion out a little bit more. After all, this isn't the first time sweatshops have been connected to fashion houses. We keep hearing about this over and over again, and as you mentioned, the parent company may not actually know. Given that case, should fashion houses be held responsible for the contractors or their subcontractors and their actions?
Absolutely, they should be held accountable, and we now have the guiding principles of the United Nations that make it clear that all multinational companies have responsibility for abuses that take place throughout their supply chains. The difficulty is for companies to get those supply chains back under control. We have an agreement actually with Inditex at the global level, an agreement between our global union and Inditex, to make sure that Inditex does respect working conditions throughout its chain. That one clause in the agreement actually says that subcontractors to Inditex cannot further subcontract the work without the express permission of the company. However, that obviously still goes on and may well have gone on in this case. But the whole point of the agreement is to have a dialogue between the unions and the company to make sure that preventative measures are put in place so that this kind of thing doesn't come to light in the way that it has come to light today. So the challenge for multinational companies, not just in the textile sector but in other sectors as well, is to get that control back over their supply chains so that they can be responsible and accountable for the working conditions under which their products are made.
It's an issue of economics as well, isn't it? It has been said before that if all fashion houses were to adhere strictly to labor laws or overseas labor laws, then the cost of production would be a lot higher. That same cost they would then have to pass on to their consumers. Possibly they may lose business then. How do you see a middle ground?
Well, actually, the cost of passing on higher wages for workers is very, very small in this industry. If you break down the labour costs of any given amount of item of clothing, the labour costs represent a very small percentage of that. We've done calculations, for example, of a T-shirt in Bangladesh. Labour costs of making a T-shirt that might retail for $30 are 2 cents. So it's very clear that making a marginal increase to labour costs is not going to affect the actual price. And in most cases, the brands could take the increases on the shoulder, as it were, but even if it were passed on to the consumer, the amount under discussion would be very, very small. The problem is not only about costing, it's also about working hours, and it's about suppliers coming under increasing pressure to deliver goods on time. And that's where you see the sort of unsanctioned subcontracting that we see here, when a contractor cannot fulfill its obligation to the brand and then subcontracts further down and control is lost.
Jenny, thank you very much for being with us there. Jenny Holdcroft speaking to us from Geneva. Hundreds of fast food workers in New